In Lecture 10 we looked at how to measure economic surplus through consumer and producer surplus. And one of the things that we saw in Lecture 10 was that markets usually do a pretty good job of maximising this economic surplus, making it as large as possible, leading to the economically efficient outcome. What we're going to do in Lecture 11 is look at situations where that's not the case. Look at situations where the market, for whatever reason, is not going to be able to lead to the economically efficient outcome. In general, we refer to this situation as market failure. A situation where the market isn't able to lead us to the efficient outcome, where the forces of supply and demand cause an inefficient outcome to occur. So what sort of reasons could there be for that? Well, it turns out there's quite a few, and we're going to spend a big chunk of the rest of the class examining these sorts of situations. So number one, just after our second midterm, we'll take a look at situations where market power can lead to inefficient outcomes. The general idea here is that when we get really big firms, those big firms are going to use their size to drive price up. But as they drive the price up, that diminishes the number of people who can buy the product. We get fewer things bought, and because of that, miss out on some surplus, a market failure. Very soon after our next lecture, in lectures 13 and 14, we'll start looking at externalities. Externalities are, it's the fancy economics term for side effects, essentially. When we engage in some market activity, we may affect not just the buyer and the seller, but there might be some third party that's affected. And if those third parties' preferences aren't taken into account, then that can lead to an inefficient outcome, market failure. The very last couple of lectures of the semester will look at information problems, situations where one party to a transaction knows less than the other party, and we'll see that that can make it really difficult to achieve the efficient outcomes. Number 4, irrationality was not something that we emphasized very much back in the first couple of lectures of the class, but we certainly saw the flip side of that. We saw rationality. But the corollary to that is if we don't act rationally, then we may end up with worse outcomes. Again, a market failure, and there might be reasons why particular markets are difficult for people to engage in rationally. We've also seen government regulations in the last few lectures that could take us away from an efficient outcome. We've seen price ceilings and floors, we've seen quantity regulations, quotas and mandates, we've seen taxes and subsidies, and all of these, if they're used at inappropriate times in inappropriate settings, could lead to a lack of economic efficiency, could lead to market failure.